Everyone right now is talking about Photoshop generative fill, and for good reason. You can take bad photos like this and turn them into bangers like this. Or you can transform an entire set like I did for the thumbnail of this video. In the past, you may have just deleted your bad photos, but now with a little bit of work, you can salvage or even turn these bad photos into Instagram-worthy photos. Let me show you how. For this first photo, it's a pretty bad photo. I took this a few years ago of my wife. The first thing that I wanna do is I think this photo would be really cool if she was standing in the mountain. So I'm going to select the sky, and then with the sky selected, I'm gonna use generative fill and I'm gonna say mountains with snow caps. That's not too bad. See what we got for number 2. I don't like that one at all. That one's a little bit fake. If you don't like any of the options, you can always just click generate again and it'll generate new options for you. I still think this one can work. So let's start off with this one and see what we can do with it. So the next thing that I wanna do is I wanna fix all of the foreground here. Let's just unlock the background layer. And then we're gonna select the subject. And the reason why I wanna select the subject is because I wanna change all of this foreground. And if I start selecting the foreground with the subject selected, it'll start trying to recreate her body, and I don't wanna do that. So I just wanna make a copy of her in a separate layer so that whatever we do, we can always just put that layer to the top, over top of the other layers. Now let's select the sky, and I'm actually gonna do an invert selection. So to do that, I'm gonna click Command-Shift-I, and then I'm going to generative fill that, and I'm gonna say rocky foreground with path leading to mountains. See what happens here. Oh wow, that's crazy. I mean, there's still some work to be done, but just the fact that, wow. I think it would look better if it wasn't, like if there was a little more rocky, a little more boulders here. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select this portion of the image and just say boulders. That looks a little fake. I'm not sold on any of these, to be honest. And that sometimes happens when you do this. It's kind of a trial and error when you're using generative fill. Sometimes the results look fantastic, and others it just looks completely out of place. So you're just gonna have to play around with it. I wanna get rid of this arch. If you just click generative fill and then don't type anything in, it'll just kind of fill in the photo. That didn't quite work. If we drag the layer up higher, there we go. See, this is what I was talking about with the subject. It kind of does some weird stuff with her hair there. This actually isn't terrible. I mean, that's not actually her head there. I kind of filled it in a little bit, but I think that it looks fine. It kind of looks like it added a little bit of a lens flare here. I'm not really too fond of that, so I'm just gonna get rid of that. I like the path leading to the mountains, but I think it's a little bit too bare. Like, I think it would be better if there were trees or something along the side. So I'm just gonna select that corner, and then I'm also just gonna hold Shift and then select this corner as well. And I think it would be good if there were some, say, tall, deciduous. I don't know how to spell deciduous. For the purpose of this video, that'll do. One last thing I'm gonna do is I am gonna make the sky a little more moody. Maybe, I think it would look better with a little more clouds. So I'm just gonna select the sky again. So sometimes this will happen, and it's because the sky isn't selected. You have to actually select the layer which has the sky. What I like to do is just create a new layer and stamp everything onto it. And you can do that by hitting Shift, Command, Option, N to create a new layer, and then E, and then that'll stamp everything that you've done onto that layer. And then now I should be able to select the sky, and then I'm gonna say cloudy sky. So that's without the sky change, that's with the sky change. For the purpose of this video, this is good enough. I'm gonna stop here, and I'm just gonna do some final tweaks in Camera Raw. So again, I'm gonna create a new layer and stamp everything to it, and then I'm gonna open up the Camera Raw filter. And this is kind of like Lightroom within Photoshop. I think that's a pretty good spot to stop. All right, this last one here, it's, I think, a really cool photo, but it could use a little bit more in the frame to make it more interesting. Select sky, but I'm actually going to remove a portion around her head just so that it doesn't try and fill out her head because it looks kind of weird. Generative fill, I'm gonna say snowy mountains with fog. Again, it's not doing the best job. And sometimes this is gonna happen. You're gonna have to spend more time and just keep regenerating images until you find one that looks good. And sometimes that may mean making a new selection or typing in a new keyword, or, you know, you're gonna have to play with it. And it takes a little bit of patience. Like what is this? I don't know I don't know what Photoshop is trying to do. Let's try that again. Let's just go back to snowy mountains without the fog and see if I can do a better job of that again. I've played with this photo a little bit before, and I did have this experience the last time. It took quite a few times for it to get it. This is one of those examples where you just need to have patience. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna go in now and I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna get rid of whatever that is because that looks kind of weird. That looks pretty good. And I'm gonna do the same over here. One thing that I think would be pretty cool is if we were to remove her backpack, or I guess her purse bag. Purse? I don't know what it is. It's a backpack. So this might be challenging, but let's see how well Photoshop fares. So this may be one of those instances, and I've actually done this generation before. It took 2 or 3 different generative fills on top of each other to fix this. So that actually doesn't look terrible. I think that looks, you know, you could see what Photoshop is trying to do. Okay, that's a good starting point, and I think we just need to fix the back a little bit. See what happens when I generate that again. That's weird. I've had that happen before. Sometimes, I don't know, Photoshop thinks you're trying to generate something that's inappropriate just based on the shape or the color, or I don't know. I've had it happen around fingers and skin, and I can see why, but it's funny when that happens. So I'm gonna try once more with a bigger selection, and if it doesn't work, let's just move on. Always try one more time. Oh, that's perfect. That's amazing. Okay, so we've gotten rid of the bag. That's cool. Next thing that I wanna do is add a little bit of depth to the photo by adding some snow in the foreground. So I'm just gonna kind of select here, maybe over here, and I'm just gonna say snow, see what happens. Let's try it again. One more time, maybe 2 more times. These all do exactly what I wanted the snow to do, which is kind of frame the photo. It just looks kind of weird when there's random snow like that in the middle of the street. Maybe my selection just wasn't good enough. Let's try this again. I'm just gonna delete it. And I'm going to make a better selection. Maybe I'll connect it to that part of the photo, and then something like this, and then snow. Try it again. Maybe I'll just add another little patch of snow over here and then call it a day. That's cool, I like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm just gonna do a couple little tweaks in Camera Raw, and then that'll be it for this photo. So open up Camera Raw. Okay, I think that's good. Obviously, you can spend as much time as you want just tweaking it, adding more things, making it more interesting. The whole thing with Photoshop Generative Fill is it's really limited to your imagination. So there are no limits to what you can do with this thing if you spend the time and just keep playing with it. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did and you want to keep seeing stuff like this, then be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on my next videos. And I will see you in the next video.